And here we go, Steve Harker. He's the man with that McGee quad cam alcohol engine in the Ford Thunderbird. He's from Brisbane.
And on the other side, we can see John Noonan now comes in the dragster. Harker making smoke like you wouldn't believe out the window.
Big side-by-side burnouts. John Noonan, Pacesetter Insurances, they're the sponsors of the bracket as well as this dragster.
And in fact, John Noonan sponsored by Hague Engineering and Valvoline Oil. In the dragster, the funny car T-Bird sponsored by Harker Transport, of which Steve Harker would have to be a significant part. But there we see the dragster just coming back, and Steve Harker's car also coming back alongside it as they come back down to the start line.
The cars are being guided back into their own tyre tracks to take maximum advantage of these big burnouts, because not only are the tyres hot, but so is the racetrack where they put down these two big wide tracks of hot sticky rubber.
I love that no smoking sign on Steve Harker's car. That's on a panel that he raises. He actually lifts that panel in the roof to allow the smoke out of the car so he can breathe clean air again.
That's also the emergency escape hatch in the case of the car coming to halt and he needs to get out. He goes out through the roof. Okay, John Noonan and Steve Harker. This is heads up, one ANDRA action. Harker in the Fulcrum suspension lane. John Noonan in the Agip Oils lane. Getting guided in there is Steve Harker in the Thunderbird.
Have a go at the length of that rail.
Got a wheelbase of 300 inches. Up come the revs. And off they go. Perfect reaction time for John Noonan. He's run a 4.00 reaction and takes the win.
And we get a time of 6:48, 206.14 miles an hour. 206.14 for the winner, John Noonan in the dragster.
Watch the start line reaction for John Noonan. A perfect leave, 4.00. Harker had a good leave, but couldn't match that one. Away goes Noonan. Harker ran a 6.49. Look at that. Here's Noonan with a 6.48. Harker, a 6.49, is 300 inches behind the wheelbase of that dragster. Yep. Okay, there we see those display boards. Look at that, a 6.48 for Noonan, a 6.49 for Harker. How close was that? There's Jim Reed. He puts a bit of fuel in the injector hat for the Jim and Stephen Reed funny car. That's the starter motor being unplugged. That huge 500 plus cubic engine starts to turn over. It'll produce over 1,500 horsepower as the body comes down on the Trans Am. There's Steve Reed behind the little butterfly steering wheel. We're in the second round of Pacesetter Insurance's Pro Comp Eliminator. Reed's moving forward. I didn't see any action from the Vic Baker camp over on the other side of the track. Reed will burn out across the line. Starts to smoke him up. Only a small burnout. Still no sign of Vic Baker. The body's coming down now. We've got a race. Vic Baker in the Odyssey Corvette from Sydney.
Yeah, just moving the funny car up now. He's still got to do a burnout. And the other car of Reed just coming back now down to the start line.
Jim, we see these cars roll through a little patch of water. That's just to relieve the strain on the transmission when you actually come.
That's a bigger burnout. And that's Vic Baker making smoke in the funny car.
Up goes the hatch to get some of that smoke out of the cabin. Look at that, the low, sleek lines of the Trans Am, the Pontiac Trans Am for Jim and Stephen Reed from Brisbane. Vic Baker backing up after a big smoky burnout. Baker runs out of the Vic Baker Power Steering shop. The Reeds we see sponsored by Agip Oils, Champion Spark Plugs, STP and MS Auto Parts. A little traction compound burnout from Reed as Vic Baker reverses up.
Baker's got the hatch back down again now.
They're starting to edge forward. Semi-final of Pro Comp.
Vic Baker in the Egypt line, and the Egypt-sponsored car of Steve Reed in the fulcrum lane.
This is supercharged methanol burning action. One flash of the ambers and they'll be gone.
Vic Baker just moving up to come on a line.
Up come the revs. They build the revs before they go in and bring on the actual stage line. Reed's in. In comes Baker. They're gone. And identical reaction times. Baker out in front. Here comes Reed. Who's there? Reed just gets there. Oh, so close.
And a time of 6 minutes 6.42 seconds, 217.92 miles an hour.
Here's the run on replay. They leave the line together. It's side by side. Baker puts out. Oh, how close is this? It's close all the way down. Baker with a 6.46 he ran. Look at this. Reed coming on strong in the deep end. Side by side in the lights, and there's the margin. 6.46 at 211 for Baker. Reed needed a 217 mile an hour pass as we move into the next round of Super Stock Eliminator.
And that's Jerry Cooper in the Statesman. Jerry Cooper driving the Chev-powered Statesman. Also Paul Beecham in the Monaro. Jerry Cooper shot a Jerry through the window. There's Beecham, the Beecham car, the HK Monaro, about a 1969 model. HK Chev-powered 327.
And that car looks better than when it came out of the GMH factory. Beautifully presented.
It does.
Handicap on this one. The start going to the Monaro.
Just under half a second the difference. 10.66 plays 10.29.
Here they go.
498, Jerry Cooper.
Red light for Paul Beecham. Jerry Cooper will advance. There he is, Paul Beecham in the Monaro. He's red lighted his chances away. Cooper runs it through with a good pass.
10.20 at 124.31 miles an hour for Jerry Cooper, the winner. And here comes Cooper. Cooper coming through for a good run after the Monaro red lighted. But there goes Jerry Cooper at 10.2 across the line at 124 miles an hour.
Here we go with the supercharged gear again in Superstock for Billman Performance. There's Ben Gatt in the Quaker State Superflow Heads Falcon, and John Gedalis in the Total Image car. This poor little Holden V8, only 280 cubic inches, and doesn't it rev? John Gedalis running double C gas. Benny Gatt there with a burnout. He's running double B. He's got the bigger engine. He has to do the chasing.
Yeah, the Quaker car running 351 cubic inches, supercharged 351 cubic inches, as opposed to 280 cubic inches for John Gedalis. Gedalis no slouch though. The smaller motor, as Rob said, revs its head off.
0.54 of a second handicap start going to Gedalis. Another little burnout approaching the line. He wants the traction to be perfect. This is going to be a hard run. Both cars supercharged hard runners in Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator.
Just inching forward now to come into the to lock in, and we've got the Quaker State car in. Ben Gatt's in. They're both locked in, and away we go.
And both cars a little bit slow on the reaction times, but not slow on the track. Here comes Benny Gatt with a mile-an-hour charge. He gets there first with a shootout early.
8.3 the time for Benny Gatt for the win. 8.3, 143.77 miles an hour.
And John Gedalis there. He leaves first on his handicap start. Off goes Benny Gatt. The extra horsepower of the Superflow Heads car draws him up level at half track. He takes the win with an 8.30. Gedalis on a 9.38. Here comes another attempt, the engine winding over. There she goes. The batteries in these cars stowed in the boot for two reasons. One, for safety, but from a performance point of view, it puts the weight down there over the back wheels. Good for traction.
A worrying moment there, just trying to get it started.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Steve and Jack now got the motor running in the Statesman. Buick-powered station. Sponsored by Aussie Trackware, the Brock Shop.
And I think Steve Jack on a bye run, I believe.
It looks that way.
He ran furthest under the record in the previous round, so if there is an uneven number of competitors, he gets the bye run.
And he's away racing against... No, he's not. He's just doing a burnout. But he will be away and racing against himself.
This is an awesome car. Top qualified a long way under the double B gas record. The record's 8.36. He ran a 7.8. He was half a second under the national record for this class. Runs for Phil Jack Performance, Aussie Trackware and STP.
In this kind of racing, half a second is a big slice of time.
Oh, in drag racing, half a second's like a day and a half.
Large piece of clock.
Steve Jack about to take another ride on the wild side. 345 Buick underneath that supercharger. Launches with the wheels high in the air. Keeps it nice and straight and shuts it off. He's on a bye run. He just wanted to know the car was going to run straight and hard. No problems with the car, I don't think. Hard launch, shut it off. He had the race won as soon as he went in the beams.
He really did back off with the terminal speed at 80 miles an hour.
We're back with Comp Bike Eliminator, competition bikes return.
And Fabio Crystal it is. Fabio Crystal once again back with us in the Suzuki 401 as Peter Anderson on the drag bike. Supercharged. 790 cc's. 401. That's Fabio Crystal, the blue and white leathers. 401. Peter Anderson.
Also in blue and white
Also
leathers.
in blue and white. That gets confusing for a moment, doesn't it? Peter Anderson's bike looks as though it's all engine. You look at the supercharger on it.
Running sponsorship from DID Chains is Peter Anderson, and of course Fabio Crystal, Albion Motorcycles and Crystal Paints. This is Competition Bike Eliminator, running on national record handicaps, and a handicap start going to Fabio Crystal, 0.91 of a second. Peter Anderson to do the chasing on the supercharged Honda.
Peter Anderson and Fabio Crystal lined up there. They've moved in, and we've got one locked in. And we've got them both locked in. We're standing by for a start, and away we go. Fabio Crystal, the first one away.
And a red light for Peter Anderson. He left on a 3.9 reaction time. He was 100th of a second too quick. Fabio Crystal he gets the win. He's just been driven around by Anderson, and he won't even know he's won the race.
10.09 with a terminal speed of 127 miles an hour, 127.37.
Here we see Fabio Crystal leave with his handicap start, and there's the red light on the bottom of the tree for Peter Anderson. Anderson races up to and passes Fabio Crystal. Crystal never had an opportunity to see the red light. He will have thought he lost.
Yes, and Anderson, in fact, only beat the red light by 100th of a second.
There's David Borum. He was the top qualifier in comp bike, running this turbocharged Suzuki that's running just so hard.
And Andrew Wilson, the other bike, the Suzuki, 1,327 cc's.
Dave Borum has run a long way under the B comp bike record, but what about Andrew Wilson from Tasmania? He's the defending Nationals champion, and he ran a best ever 9.6 in the last round. This is going to be a very, very tough race, both sides of the tree.
Borum's giving away about 1.5 seconds here. 8.64 for Dave Borum's class record. And you've got to 10.06 for Andrew Wilson.
You've got to remember that Andrew Wilson on this Suzuki can run over 140 mile an hour. That's going to take some catching from David Borum.
And he can probably do better than 10.06.
Absolutely.
Moving in, we're just waiting for Borum to lock up. Both in the starter's hands.
And a red light for Dave Borum. The #1 qualifier goes out of comp bike, left too soon, way early. And Peter Anderson gets there, takes the win, and runs another sub-record 9.98. He moves up.
136.78 miles an hour with a 9.98. And that's under the record by 0.073.
Here we see Andrew Wilson about to leave the line on his handicap start. Gets away, Dave Borum winds it up and leaves, bringing on the red light. Borum will... Modified eliminator we're into. This is where we go back to the dial-your-own system, Jim. Modified for T-buckets, as we see there, dragsters and street rods running on the dial-your-own principle, where the racers nominate their own handicap time. Modified, sponsored by J&J Fuel Injection.
So we have Kelly Schaefer in the T-bucket and Peter Wilson running the rail, the Chev-powered rail, 377 cubic inches, plays 302. With the Ford T-bucket of Kelly Schaefer.
These racers nominate their own handicap time. We call it a dial-in, and then they are handicapped on that. Any run faster than your dial-in is a breakout. It means you lose. Wilson to do the chasing. He's dialed in at 9.2 seconds, giving away 1.13 seconds to Kelly Schaefer, the little lady in the pink T-bucket. There goes Schaefer. There goes Wilson. Now a race to the end.
But in chasing her, he cannot beat his dial-in time.
It'll be close. I think Wilson gets there. Wilson runs a 9.19, which is quicker than the 9.20 dial-in, but it was a double breakout because Kelly Schaefer ran a 10.29 on a 10.33. So there's Schaefer getting to the line first, but she ran too far under her nominated handicap time and broke out. That's Michael Utting in the Utting and Lee V12 Jaguar-powered roadster, fuel-injected car from South Australia.
And the dragster that he'll run against is Steve Russell. You can see on the far side of the screen.
Steve Russell up from Victoria, so two of the southern competitors here in this, I think, about the third round of modified eliminator for J&J Fuel Injection.
There's Steve Russell's car, the dragster, 377 cubic inches of Chevrolet power, sponsored by Chrome Tools, motivator engines. Nicely turned out car too, with the Chrome signage down the side, but there you see the hot rod, the roadster. Jag powered is the roadster of Mick Utting.
Runs with assistance from Berkeley Exhaust, who would have had a heck of a job building a set of extractors for this V12, and Jag Care.
Berkeley Exhaust have been a lot of help to me over the years, and I can tell you they can build anything when it comes to exhaust.
There he is, Michael Lee. He's getting a handicap start of 1.65 seconds, and I can tell you that this V12 Cat, the big Jag, it can go a long way with that 1.65 handicap start.
Okay, we're just about locked in.
Here they go. No. Russell wasn't happy with his stage. He's reversed out. He has 20 seconds in which to be in and staged. Otherwise, the Jaguar would be sent on its own. He's used up 6, 7.
He's back in.
He'll be right. There goes Michael Lee with a 5.0 reaction time. Heads off a 5.2 for Russell. Who'll get there? Russell gets there first. He runs an 8.30 and breaks out. Mick Lee runs a 9.98, also a breakout, but not by as far. The air's got good, the track's got good. Look at this, there goes Michael Lee. It'll be a double breakout result. Russell has to do the chasing a long way back, and he runs under that dial-in and breaks out by a long way. He ran an 8.30 on an 8.35 dial-in, got there first, but breaks out. Bobby Millett from Townsville in North Queensland in the T-bucket. We see it there, a fuel-injected small block Chevrolet. He's getting the traction compound.
And just coming into shot and doing a small burnout is Phil Ballard, the dragster. It's a Chev-powered unit. He's actually a farmer for a living. It's getting harder and harder to make a living on the land. If it gets any harder, he might have to start thinking about becoming a pro dragster driver. May be easier to make money out of drag racing than farming very shortly.
There's Bobby Millett, the Dragster Australia sticker on the side, supporting his favourite magazine. And he's also sponsored by North Coast Hydraulics. This will be a good race. Millet dials in it at 8.95, gets a handicap start from Phil Ballot. 8.38 the dial in for Ballot.
Just over half a second the difference here, 0.57 of a second.
Bobby Millet gets it the easy way because Phil Ballot brings on a red light. So Bobby Millet from North Queensland in the T-bucket. Ballot runs an 8.34, but it's all wasted with a red light. Bobby Millet's 8.96 on an 8.95 dial in.
144
there you see it,
miles an
red
hour.
on the bottom of the tree.
And 144 miles an hour is good enough for a win as opposed to 157 against the red light.
Here we see another roadster.
Yeah, Maury Leonard in the 27 Chev Roadster. And Ray Merritt driving the T-bucket, the Chev-powered T-bucket. 350 cubic inches, faces up to Maury Leonard with that massive 4.54.
Ray Merritt from Brisbane and Jock McLeod currently from Brisbane, about to move back to Sydney, I believe. Maurice Leonard doing the driving for Jock McLeod. There's Ray Merritt being held and then instructed to by his crew chief, letting him know what's happening. Here they come. There's 0.44 of a second handicap start going to Ray Merritt in the Cheviot T-bucket. There's the picture of concentration on the start line. Two drivers with only one thing in their mind, and that's the Christmas tree starting lights.
They're both locked in. Here we go.
Red light again. They're trying so hard. Ray Merritt brings on the red light. Maurice Lennon will get the win. He doesn't have to run hard at all.
And a time of 9.13 is certainly good enough there.
We move ahead into Pro Stock Eliminator. This is back to the Group 1 stuff. Bumper to bumper Pro Stock. There's Chris Mills from Western Australia. The big Chevy-powered Camaro.
And Joe Polito driving the Ford Probe.
Joe Polito from Sydney, so it's an East Coast, West Coast confrontation. Ford versus Chevrolet. There's the crew chief directing Joe back into the water. He wasn't happy with that burnout. He wants more heat in the tyres.
Joe Polito, the Quaker State car, the Ford Probe. Cleveland Ford motor, 351.
He's in the burnout there and pulling gears. He's actually shifting up gears to get the tyres spinning harder and burning out faster.
Not raising a lot of smoke.
Speed Pro on the side of Chris Mills' car. There's Joe Polito going so fast some of the sign writing peeling off the car. Heads up action, no breakouts, no dial-ins, no handicap. This is Pro Stock. Bumper to bumper Pro Stock Eliminator at the 1991 Nationals.
And they get less than half a second.
That's it,
Reaction.
0.4 of a second is the lead between that one flash of the ambers and the green light. Joe Polito from Sydney, Chris Mills from Perth. They bring the revs up, they come into stage, and they're gone. And a great lead, 4.5 for Mills, 4.0 for Polito. This is going to be a run and a half. Look at this, Joe Polito in an upset. Joe Polito gets there first. Look at the time, 8.28, 1:64.05. That is absolutely the best ever for that car. Watch it leave the start line. Look at this for side-by-side, 8.28 for Joe Polito. He's on a roll. Chris Mills, 8.30. Both cars over 160 mile an hour, separated by only 0.02 of a second. Here we go. Top qualifier, Adrian Kelly. Up against Hans van Dyke. Up from Melbourne in this car, the Black Taxi. He's won the Nationals a couple of times with this car. and it's the last meeting. The car has been sold. He's building a new one.
Is this the man that had the engine change?
Absolutely. This is the car, Hans van Dijk. He did a complete engine change during qualifying in 48 minutes.
They're not real bad.
Adrian Kelly running for Pacific Performance, defending Pro Stock Series winner, defending Nationals champion. That's Adrian Kelly in the Pacific Performance Camaro from Brisbane. They got some sort of problem there.
Both these cars Buick powered.
Got it together now. Hans van Dijk is way up forward, close to the line. Van Dijk heading for the beams. He may go in and stage. Heading in, up from Victoria. Hans van Dijk has brought on the pre-stage light. He's waiting for Adrian Kelly. I'm not sure how long he'll wait. If he brings on that second bulb, Jim, and goes into the stage beam, his opponent has 20 seconds in which to stage, otherwise he's disqualified.
And
there it is.
Done that.
He's gone in. Here comes Kelly. He'll make it with time to spare, I think. This will be a hard run in bumper-to-bumper Pro Stock Eliminator. Away they go, and look at the whole shot. Hans van Dijk left with a reaction time of 4.77. Adrian Kelly is left at the start line. 8.33 for Hans van Dijk. Adrian Kelly shut it off. Look at this. Watch this for a reaction time and a whole shot. Adrian Kelly goes to sleep on the start line. Away goes Hans van Dijk. Adrian Kelly just moves now. You can't pick up that much room in Pro Stock Eliminator. Here we are with the next round of Modified Bike Eliminator, and this is for the dial your own bikes. These guys dial in, nominate their own handicap time.
Peter Muscat there with the Suzuki, and dialed in 9.31, so he'll be giving a little away to Kevin Haynes on the Kawasaki. The Kawasaki running from the Egypt lane, 1,327 cc's on the Quacker, dialed in at 10.5.
Over 1.2 seconds handicap start. Haynes in trouble off the start line. Here comes Peter Muscat. It's going to be a tight run though. The Mackay racer with a top speed. Can he get by? Yes, sir. Just gets there. And look at this. Good run. 9.35 on a 9.31 dial in. That's the way to win. Here we see Haynes on the start line. Up on the wheelie bars. Comes down hard. Gets unsettled. And Peter Muscat comes on. There's a big gap there. There's a big chase. And it's only the mile an hour from Muscat that'll get him by. Watch this one. Just gets him. Must have been the tread on the tyre that got that win. As we see Arthur Cummins on the Blue Murder Suzuki.
And Len Sharp riding the 1170cc Kawasaki number 150. 9.9 the dial-in time for Len Sharp, and there on the Suzuki Arthur Cummins with a dial-in time of 10 seconds.
Only 1/10 of a second. There won't be much handicap in this one. Watch for the reaction times. Who'll get out first? It should be Arthur Cummins if his reaction time's good enough. And red lights, it's too good. Leaves very early, gets a 2.8 reaction time. And Len Sharp there takes the win.
Time at 9.85 and a terminal speed of 134.
He saw the red light and he would have broken out, but it doesn't matter because once Arthur Cummins leaves the start line here, we'll see that dreaded red cherry come on the Christmas tree. There it is.
He left a mile early.
Huge crowd enjoying the racing here at the 25th anniversary Nationals. Still with Modified Bike Eliminator.
Bob Shaw on the Kawasaki, and also Simon Jones Kawasaki.
That's Simon Jones on screen now. And Bob Shaw down from Townsville. He's a telecom linesman. Runs with sponsorship from Ace Motorcycles up there in Townsville.
Yeah, a little over 800 cc's, and Simon Jones bike 1210 dial-in. Plays 1,230 cc's for Bob Shaw. And Bob Shaw dialed in at 9.87.
That's a big handicap. 2.13 seconds.
That is a big handicap. You'll be halfway there.
Watch this chase. We see the big mile an hour coming into effect on many runs. Will it be enough for Bob Shaw? Here we go. Simon Jones will get the handicap start. And he's away, clean green there. And a red light for Bob Shaw. It was such a big handicap, he got anxious and couldn't wait long enough. Simon Jones will take the win. Here comes Shaw with a mile an hour, but it's all academic because a 12.11 will win it on a 12.10 dial. Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator. We're fighting our way through 5 rounds in Superstock, and here we go with the Advanced Engine Performance car.
Jerry Cooper in the Statesman, Chev 480 cubic inch. He's a speed shop proprietor and is sponsored by Advanced Engine Performances.
He ran a long way under his record in the last round. We've got an uneven round again, so this is the guy that's earned the bye run this time by virtue of the fact that he was furthest under his national record in the previous round. Running a modified sedan, the big 480 cubic inch engine, only one 4-barrel carburetor, flat tappet camshaft, no full chassis in this style of car.
And a class record of 10.29. Comes up and he's locked in, and down the tree come the lights, and we're away as the front lifts.
And Jerry Cooper not running it too hard on this bye run. He's just moving to the next round. He doesn't want to risk anything. Just backs it off there. You see a little bit of over fueling through the pipes. And look at that. 1270, 75 mile an hour and into the next round. Here we are in round 4 of Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator. Ben Gatt in the Quaker State Superflow Heads Double B Gasser. He's coming forward, and it'll be heads up Double B Gas because in the other lane we've got Stephen Jack.
Stephen Jack in the Holden Statesman, the Buick powered Statesman in the suspension lane. Awesome Buick 345 V8.
A supercharged limousine.
There's one big motor car with one very big motor. And lots of power from the Quaker car of Benny Gatt as well. Another supercharged V8, 351 cubic inches of Ford. Benny Gatt's Big Falcon.
And there's the guide back from the crew member who has to be fairly fit, I'd say. The Jack brothers running for Phil Jack Performance, Aussie Trackwear and the Brock Shop.
Class record at 8.36.
This is heads up. They're both in the same class. There'll be no handicap. We're in round 4. That's the semi-final of Superstock Eliminator. Whoever wins this one will go into the final against Jerry Cooper. Phil Jack, he's the guy that does the crew work. Steve Jack behind the wheel. Dave Jack also prepares the cylinder heads.
A family affair.
And the Gatt brothers also into cylinder heads with their business Superflow heads. There they are. And Benny Gatt, he's got the whole shot. Steve Jack's got to try and catch him from behind. Ben Gatt out with the lead. Steve Jack, can he catch him? No. Benny Gatt's into the final, and fireball for Steve Jack. Exploded the engine, I'd say, on fire into the deep end. The fire's gone out, the extinguisher has worked, or the oil supply to the fire has stopped, but spectacular action there. Benny Gatt, 827, the fire truck heads down. Here we have them on the start line on the replay. There's Benny Gatt, leaves about a car length in front. Steve Jack with a big wheel stand. He's given away such an advantage. He needs a big top speed. He's revving that Buick engine as hard as he can. There's a puff of smoke. Benny Gatt takes the race. They head into the braking area, and watch for this. I'd say this is a massive engine explosion and oil fire, and that's big trouble for the Steve Jack and Phil Jack Performance team. And we're into the 4th round of Super Street Eliminator. This is a dial-your-own bracket for sedans running between 12 seconds and 13.99.
On the line there, car number 1572 is Linda Kratt. Linda Kratt and the Monero Chev powered Monero 350 cubic inches. This is our lovely nun with bad habits, as she calls herself.
Linda Crate with a solo. There was an uneven number in that round. She's the one that got the bye run. It's round 4 of Super Street Eliminator. She had dialed in at a 12.80, runs a 12.68. It would have been a breakout, would have been a red light. She did about everything wrong, but she gets the win because she was on her own.
Clive Bramham it is. Clive Bramham, the Tirana, the Chev-powered Tirana, 350 cubic inches. Car number 1538 comes up against Mark Schlingman, driving the 69 model Pontiac Firebird.
Mark Schlingman in the big Pontiac. He's getting a handicap start from the Chev-powered Tirana.
Almost 1.5 seconds the difference.
There's the big handicap start. Schlingman with the Pontiac had the better start line reaction. The Tirana trying to catch him. I don't think he'll get to Schlingman.
And a good win for Mark Schlingman. All right, Jim Watson in the HQ Holden, the Chev-powered HQ Holden. 1536 the number. 3033 there on screen now is Randall Fuel. Also driving a Holden and another Chev-powered one with a slightly bigger piece of meat under the bonnet. 365 cubic inches, place 327. With dial-in times pretty close really at 12.5 for Jim Watson's HQ, and for the earlier model car of Fuel, 12.4 seconds.
Yeah, only 1/10 of a second handicap on the lights. The start going to the blue HQ.
And Fuel moving up to lock in now. He's only got one more light to bring on, and then we'll be in the starter's hands. We're coming down the tree now, and away we go.
Good start line reaction for Fuel there. He's in the 4s with the reaction time looking good, heading into the lights. Look at this. This is close. Who won that? You've got to look for the win light. Randall Fuel.
Randall Fuel for the win. 12 minutes 53, Randall Fuel.
Randall Fuel there. He gets there in a very, very close race. Watch this there. Door handle to door handle all the way. Approaching the finish line area. How can you judge this one? Randall Fuel by a foot.
All right, David Foreman in the Tirana, the Chev-powered Tirana. Number 699, David Foreman, 350. Just a one car on a buy here. 1096 is dialed in. And this will be an easy run for him.
That's right, we're into Super Sedan now, the quicker cars. He's got the bye run for round 4 of Super Sedan. Gets away on a 6.04 reaction time. Dialed in at 1096. He's into round 5 of Super Sedan, the easy way with a solo, but he's going to test that dial in, I think. There it is. He runs an 11.01 on a 1096 dial in, 0.05 of a second over.
Okay, Steve Swinscoe. Steve Swinscoe driving the Datsun 180B. No Datsun motor under that. That's actually powered by a big Chev 350. And the Ford Capri of John Solomon. 351 Ford Cleveland powered. Number 416. He's a motor mechanic by trade. That's the Rainbow video car we're looking at there. Also sponsored by Brown's Engineering. Beautiful old Ford Capri. When I say old Ford Capri, they really were a classic car in my book.
Yeah, they came out way ahead of their time in styling, and they still don't look that dated now. John Solomon will get a handicap start to the extent of 0.67 of a second from Steve Swinscoe. This is Super Stock Eliminator for the Dial Your Own sedans, quicker than 11.99 seconds. We're into round 4. They're both locked in the stage beams. There goes Solomon with a good 4.01 light. He was 1/1000th of a second off a perfect reaction time. Swinscoe's got a job to try and catch him. Solomon will get there. Runs a 10.73 on a 10.73. He's got a perfect pass.
You can't do better than that, can you?
Sorry, I've got an error there. We've got Solomon broke out.
Okay, on the line we have Don Thompson, the Cortina The Ford 302, Don Thompson, the owner-driver of that car. Yellow Terror heads. And alongside him coming in is John Clark driving the Ford Escort, 438 cubic inches. That's one big Escort motor. The little old early Cortina there with the Ford 302 V8. And these two dialed in at 11.73 for Don Thompson in the yellow car, the Cortina, and in 10.1 John Clark. So giving away 1.6 odd seconds is John Clark in the Escort.
And this Escort of Ipswich Car Sales has been running hard all day. He's into round 4 of Super Sedan Eliminator, trying to move up into the semi-final. One of these races will get there. Don Thompson on screen or John Clark, the guy giving away the 1.63 second handicap start. Here they are, they're all in. There goes the lights for Thompson. Big handicap start. Off and chasing now is John Clark. Look at that lead for Don Thompson. John Clark storming along, and Clark with the top end just squeaks by.
And a time of 10.10 on a 10.10.
That's perfection. Don Thompson there, we see. Down come the lights. Leaves very smartly on the green light, but John Clark, he's got the mile-an-hour advantage with the big block Ford-powered Ipswich Car Sales car. Watch this in the deep end. Here he comes through, hits the finish line and stops the clocks.
Okay, we have Ken Millard plays Rob Frawley. Both of them in Holden-powered units, both in Tiranas. Well, one actually in the Chev-powered, the 350 Chev Tirana of Ken Millard from the Fulcrum lane. And from the Egypt Oils lane is Rob Frawley, driving the 6-cylinder supercharged 185 Holden.
Rob Frawley from Redcliffe with the blown 6-cylinder. Ken Millard travelling down from Townsville to compete in the Nationals. Ken Millard, he's the guy that's going to get the handicap start. The little 6-cylinder HB Tirana has to give away 0.81 of a second.
And of course that HB Tirana never actually came out with a 6-cylinder. They were the little, I think they were the Brabham model, weren't they? The one that probably Sir Jack wished he'd never put his name on. The little 4 cylinders.
Absolutely. There goes Ken Millard on a 5.03 reaction, a 5.8 reaction time for Rob Frawley. Millard is out in front. Here comes the high-stepping 6-cylinder Tirana. Who's there? Millard. Millard gets there first.
11.49 the time for Millard. Speed at 109.54 miles an hour. That's actually under the handicap.
It's a double breakout because there we see on the replay Rob Frawley leaves hard. He left so hard he ran a 10.65 in the white Tirana. Millard also breaking out, but not quite by as much. We see Millard just hang on at the lights, but it was determined by the double breakout. We move into modified eliminator round 4.
Bob Millett and Mick Hutting. Mick Hutting in the...
Bobby Millett, another Townsville racer. We just saw Ken Millard do well. Can Bobby Millett keep it up for the North Queenslanders?
And Mick Hutting in the T Roadster, the Jack-powered car. That's the green car in the far lane, the Egypt lane over by the tower.
This fuel-injected V12 Jaguar up from Adelaide in South Australia, running for Berkeley Exhaust and JagCare. Bobby Millett with assistance from North Coast Hydraulics in Townsville. Millett with the fuel-injected V8, Hutting with a fuel-injected V12. Handicap of almost 1 second going to Mick Hutting. They're into stage. The green roadster will leave first. Bobby Millett's off and chasing, fairly even in the reaction time department. Millard, look at the mile an hour starting to come on. The V12 Jag might sneak it in and does so, but he's broken out. Ran a 9.93 on a 9.96. So Bobby Millett gets the win.
Yep.
There we see Mick Hutting leave on a good light. Bobby Millett waits, does the chasing. The Jag gets out, heads for the finish line. Bobby Millett trying to use the horsepower from the Chevy to catch him. Mick Lee will get there first, but he runs 200ths too fast. That's Peter Wilson in the fuel-injected Chevy-powered rear-engine dragster.
And just coming up now, should come into the picture in a moment, is Maury Leonard. There he is, Maury Leonard, driving the big Chev 454, the 27 Roadster. Beautifully turned out car for McLeod chassis.
And only 0.2 of a second difference in the dial in the dragster to get the start. There's Peter Wilson.
0.2 of a second, not too much. You won't notice too much difference, but if they both jump away on time, 0.2 of a second can get you a few feet down the track. Peter Wilson dialed in at 9.2. Maury Leonard dialed in at 9.19.
Peter Leonard hasn't gone into stage. Peter Wilson hasn't gone into stage. Morris Leonard's been there for quite some time.
Actually, they're not 0.2 of a second, are they?
100th?
100th of a second. Oh, now they've changed it again on us.
That's the dispute. There's a dispute regarding the handicap. Peter Wilson, there's a digital display on the start line that shows the handicap to the racers. They have to look at that. If they agree with it, they go into stage. If they don't agree with it, they've got to hold back. So there was a problem with the handicap. It's now been rectified. It's 0.19 of a second handicap start. But I tell you what, Morris Leonard got the better start line reaction by a fair way. It's side by side. And it's the dragster that'll get there first.
Yes, that's a good win for Peter Wilson and the rail, the Chev powered rail, with a time of 9.24, 128.94 miles an hour.
Morris Leonard with a good leave there, but it just didn't come across because the Roadster slowed to a 9.5 on a 9.0 dial-in. That allowed Peter Wilson to get away and cross the win line.
Back with the bikes once again.
That's right, we've got round 5 of Modified Bike Eliminator. Modified Bike, the dial your own section for motorcycles. Peter Muscat on the Suzuki in the Fulcrum suspension near lane. The first defence bike down from Mackay.
And we've got Len Sharp on the Kawasaki. Len Sharp, number 150, against Peter Muscat Suzuki. Bikes come up onto the line with, yep, we're just about locked in. We've got them both locked in.
0.54 second handicap start to Len Sharp. He bounces away from the start line on a very good reaction time. Peter Muscat under pressure to try and make up the difference. And who's there? It's Sharp.
Yes, Len Sharp the win. 10.20, his terminal speed 118 miles an hour, as opposed to Muscat's time of 9.45.
Here they come. This is how close it was. Less than a bike length, less than a wheel.
$14.18 would be Simon Jones, the Simon Jones Kawasaki. There he is, the 831 cubic inch. Be a big motorbike, wouldn't it? CC's. Number 1418. Big burnout from Simon.
He has the bye run for this round 5 of Modified Bike Eliminator. Big fields right through the Nationals. We've had 6 rounds of racing to go to the final for Modified Bike, Super Street, Super Sedan and Modified Eliminators. Here we go with the semi-final bye run for Simon Jones. He's running it through as quick as he can to test his dial-in. Runs a 12.26 on a 12.10 dial-in. Here we go with round 5 of Super Street. We're into semi-finals now. Semi-final time for Super Street Eliminator.
Okay, Linda Kratt, the Monaro. And there she is there. Linda Kratt, Monaro, 350 powered, 350 cubic inch, and Mark Schlingmann driving the 69 Firebird. That's Linda we see on camera there now. Linda Kratt. And there we go with the 69 Firebird Pontiac of Mark Schlingmann. dialed in at 13.5 as opposed to Linda's 12.7, so she's giving away almost half a second there, about 0.8 of a second.
And on top of that, she's giving away over 100 cubic inches in engine size. But Linda to do the chasing, that's for sure. 0.8 of a second. 2 amber lights on that Christmas tree. That'll be the head start that Mark Schlingmann gets. Big engine, 455 cubic inches, but Linda Crate been running well in Super Street. This is the semi-final. Off they go, and a good start line reaction time for Schlingmann there. He's in the 4s with his RT. Back with a 6.3 is Linda Crate. Schlingmann will go across the line first and take the win.
Yes, Mark Schlingmann with 13.44.
600ths of a second under his dial-in, but Linda Crate ran a 12.56 to be 0.14 under. It's a double breakout. Linda running her fastest time of the weekend in an attempt to try and run down the fleeing Firebird of Mark Schlingmann, but she can't do it. She breaks out in the attempt.
Okay, this is Randall Fuel. Randall Fuel lighting up the Holden V8.
This is the second semi-final. Randall Fuel's got the bye run, so in the final of Super Street we'll see this car, Randall Fuel, and Schlingmann's big Firebird running it through on the bye run. Stops the clocks with a 12.45 on a 12.40, so that's nice and consistent from him. Here we have the final of Super Sedan Eliminator coming, the semi-final of Super Sedan Eliminator coming out. Here we have the semi-final of Super Sedan Eliminator coming out. We're down to only 4 cars, I think. There's Steve Swinsko in that 180B Datsun.
And David Foreman driving the Tirana, the Chev-powered Tirana on the other side of the track. He's in the, David Foreman in the tower side lane, the AGIP lane. And the Swinsko Datsun 180B, powered by the big Chev 350. He's actually a plumber for a living. David Foreman just burning out in the Tirana, as is the 180B of Steve Swinsko. Dialed in at 10.73. Swinsko just giving away about a quarter of a second to David Foreman, dialed in at 10.99.
Semi-final time for Super Sedan Eliminator. We're getting well and truly down to the business end of the 25th anniversary Australian Drag Racing Nationals. We're in Super Sedan Eliminator. Steve Swinsko in the Superformance Datsun. He's up against David Foreman over there in the AGIP lane in the white Tirana.
Both powered by Chev 350 V8s.
And only that 0.26 of a second handicap start going to the Tirana of David Foreman. There's the 2 drivers concentrating on those Christmas tree start lights. The plumber's toy for Steve Swinsko. Go. Fairly even start line performance from both races, and the Tirana out front. Steve Swinsko putting on a march in the deep end. Who's there? It's Foreman, but he breaks out. Swinsko gets the win. Also with a breakout, these guys trying so hard. It was a double breakout there. We see here they're underway. Foreman's out in front. Steve Swinsko doing the chasing. A 10.9 coming up for Foreman in the lights there, but Swinsko breaks out by less.
The John Clark Escort from Ipswich Car Sales. 438 inches of cubic inches of Ford V8 pushing that what used to be an Escort. Ken Millard in the Tirana, the Chev-powered Tirana with a 350 V8. He's dialed in at 11.61. as opposed to a 10.10 for John Clark in the Escort. So Clark giving away 1.5 seconds here, which is a fair sort of a handicap, 1.5 seconds.
John Clark is a local racer running for Ipswich Car Sales. Ken Millard, as we said before, down from Townsville, and Ken Millard was the winner of the Townsville track point score. up there, a couple of years in a row running in Super Street Eliminator. He's since updated with his Super Sedan. Ken signalling furiously, saying that he's not happy with the dial-ins listed on the tree. I'd say that's the go. The starter coming over to find out. Ken Millard questioning the dial-in. The starter there communicating with the tower. If the racers go into stage, it means they accept the handicap, and that's the end of it. There's no further discussion allowed. There it is. There's a change to the dial-in, and 11:45 is the dial-in for Ken Millard. That's what he was questioning. Semi-final time for Super Sedan Eliminator. Ken Millard in the Tirana. John Clark in the Capri. Ken Millard from Townsville, very consistent racer in the north. John Clark running for Ipswich Car Sales. One of these drivers will go into the final of Super Sedan Eliminator.
Just inching forward now to come up onto the line. We've got the first light on for Clark, first light on for the Tirana. And we just inch them forward.
1.35 seconds the handicap start to the Tirana. John Clark with a better leave by 0.02 of a second, would you believe? That's fairly even. It's who can run close to the dial-in, who's got the mile an hour. It's John Clark, and he gets there. He's safe.
10.29 the time, and 104.55 miles an hour for the winner, John Clark, in the Escort from Ipswich.
Ken Millard there. He leaves well. John Clark, though, a lot of cubic inches, and he used them very well. He's got past the Tirana right on the line and jumped on the picks, I'd say, on the brakes, and washes off some top speed, wins it by half a car length. We're into the finals, Jim. This is where it all gets serious. These guys are racing to be the Nationals champion. We've got Comp Bike Eliminator. That's what it's all about. And we've got a showdown that's been building for 12 months.
Camera there, the Suzuki of Andrew Wilson, the big Suzuki, 1327 cc's, pushing that along. Over on the far side, you see in the Egypt lane is the Crystal Paints entry, number 126, Fabio Crystal.
Fabio Crystal, a local Willowbank racer. He's been one of the leaders in A Street Bike. And this is the clash, as I said, they've been waiting for 12 months. Andrew Wilson from Tasmania, the defending Nationals champion. He won it over there at Ravenswood International Raceway in Perth in 1990. Here he is in the final in 1991, and he would like to race no one better than Fabio Crystal. Both bikes, A Street bikes, they're both Suzukis. There's no handicap and there's no breakout. This will be a race to see who is the winner in Comp Bike Eliminator at the 91 Nationals. They're coming in. Fabio Crystal, red lights. Tried so hard. Andrew Wilson is a repeat winner. He's sitting up, waving his hand in the air. He's got it 2 years in a row. Andrew Wilson. Fabio Crystal wastes a 10.10. And look at that. He wins. Andrew Wilson there wins the Nationals with a 14.0. Here's the start that cost Fabio Crystal a national championship. He went too soon. A 0.38 reaction time. He left 0.02 of a second too fast and hands the win to a jubilant Andrew Wilson. Finals time all the way. Competition Eliminator. Group 2 handicap racing, handicapped on the national record for their class.
Alan Gray in the T-bucket, the Chev. And Andrew Gray, Alan Gray, I should say, just burning out there. And also we've got the Seckold entry, the dragster of Ian Seckold. Supercharged, the blown Chev 350.
This is a pair of supercharged small blocks. It's of 2 double-C classes.
And not much between their class records either. 0.1 of a second, in fact, separating them. 7.8 against 7.9. Alan Gray, 7.9. And Seckold's class record at 7.8.
They're virtually identical power plants. They're both supercharged small block Chevs. There's only 5 cubic inches of difference, and that's just a 30 thou overbore. Alan Gray with the T-Bucket chassis. Ian Seckold in the Zagadlo and Seckold dragster from Sydney. Alan Gray from Brisbane. Final of competition eliminator at the 25th anniversary Nationals of Australian Drag Racing. Very, very small handicap start going to the altered of Alan Gray. This is where the big payday comes in, the final.
Alan Gray in the fulcrum lane on the mound side of the track, and on the other side over by the control tower in the Egypt tower side lane is Ian Seckold and the dragster just coming forward. Zagadlo and Seckold there.
The nerves would be right on edge. This is the money run. This is the one that's all important.
And
final of competition eliminator.
1/10 of a second separates them on the start.
Edging into the stage beams. The revs are starting to build. The tension's starting to build. They're in. And Alan Gray with a big wheel stand off the start line. And he's got it. Ian Seckold got problems with the dragster. Alan Gray takes the win and runs well under the record.
7.76, 163.4 miles an hour on the replay.
Here we see the handicap start from Alan Gray. He gets out very well in a 5.3 reaction time. Ian Seckold a little bit late, 0.7 on the reaction, but Seckold's got problems. Here comes Alan Gray, resets the national record and wins the 1991 Nationals. Final of modified bike coming up. We're back into the dial your own version for motorcycles. These guys nominating their own handicap time.
Simon Jones in 14.18 in the blue in the Kawasaki 831cc. Simon Jones. He's on 12.10, dialed in 12.10, and on the other side 9.9 in the Egypt lane. Len Sharp dialed in at 9.9. Bike number 150, Len Sharp on the Kawasaki.
We've got a pair of Kawasaki's in the final of modified bike eliminator.
They've just got to inch forward now to lock in. Almost there, both there.
2.2 seconds a handicap start. There we see it, and off and chasing. Simon Jones a long way out in front. Here comes Lenny Sharp. Can he get past? Yes, he can.
Can he ever?
And there we go. He broke out. Sharp's broken 300ths of a second too quick. Here's the replay. So taking the win will be Simon Jones that got that big handicap start. There he is. Look at the huge chase coming up for Len Sharp.
12.44 the winning time, 12.44 at 99.84 miles an hour.
There's Len Sharp winning it by a fair margin, but he should have backed off a little bit. He only broke out by 300ths.
Randall Fuel back on the line once again with Mark Schlingman.
We're into the final of Super Street Eliminator. This is the dial your own bracket for sedans between 12.0 and 13.99. Randall Fuel dialing in at a 12.42 with the Monaro. He's giving away a handicap start of almost 1 second. 0.98 of a second start going to Mark Schlingman in the Pontiac. There it goes, red light for Schlingman. The Nationals winner will be Randall Fuel. He had time to see the red light. He knows he's won it. Still motoring on in the Monaro. Schlingman trying, but it's all wasted with the dreaded red cherry.
And the win goes 12.42, 12.42 on a 12.42 is a perfect run.
That's the way to win a final. We see here Schlingman leaves too early. You can see the red light on the bottom of the tree, the far side. Here comes Randall Fuel, and he runs a perfect elapsed time for his dial-in just to rub salt into the wound. Randall Fuel, Nationals champion for 1991. Super Sedan Eliminator. We're into the finals all the way. Steve Swinsko in the Chevy-powered Datsun for Superformance.
And the Escort driven by John Clark, 438 inches. Ford Escort, Ford-powered from Ipswich Car Sales, local entry. He's in the Egypt lane. On the far side from our camera, and there's an in-car shot of Steve Swinscoe. Swinscoe driving the Datsun 180B, Chev-powered, 350 cubic inches. The Escort comes up to toe the line, and they move forward now to come up and lock in. We'll watch those lights on the Christmas tree. We've got Swinscoe come up into place. Another couple of inches for the Escort, and his lights will come on as well. Okay, one more light to come on, and then we're standing by for the start.
0.6 of a second handicap start going to Steve Swinscoe and the Datsun, the final bumper to bumper. Super Sedan Eliminator, and they are bumper to bumper. John Clark with a better start line reaction, a good 4-2 light, and I think that's going to control it for him down the deep end. He takes the win on a double breakout. A 10.07 on a 10.10 is 300ths of a second, but Swinscoe, a 10.66 is 400th of a second. So in a double breakout situation, we see John Clark there, had a good light, and wins it in a double breakout confrontation by breaking out by 100th of a second less than Steve Swinscoe. Modified Eliminator, Bobby Millett from Townsville. Fuel injected Chevrolet T-Bucket. Peter Wilson in the fuel injected Chevy rear engine dragster.
And Bob Millett in the T-Bucket. There's the rail burning out. That's Peter Wilson. 377 cubic inches of Chev power.
And very applicable that we've got two fuel injected cars in the final of J&J Fuel Injection Modified Eliminator. J&J Fuel Injection, the sponsors of the bracket, and Bobby Millett gives away the handicap start, 0.24 of a second.
And there's Bob Millett there now in the T-Bucket. Both Chev powered, 350 cubic inches for Bob Millett, 377 for the other car, Peter Wilson. Millett just burns out the tyres a little more. 8.99 he's dialed in at, and it gives away a little at 9.19 for Peter Wilson. We'll see the rail leaving just a quarter of a second ahead.
Bobby Millett from Townsville running for North Coast Hydraulics up there. Calls the car out of sight. And here it is in the final of the 1991 Nationals, the J&J Fuel Injection Modified Eliminator. Here we go, coming in, clean greens both sides, and Bobby Millett gets slightly better reaction time. They're both in the fours. It's a race to the end. Who's there? It's so close. Bobby Millett. Bobby Millett wins another double breakout. He runs an 8.91. Look at these cars. They leave so close together. They stay so close together. The final decision will come down to the breakouts. Bobby Millett, 900ths under. And oh so close, 1000ths under for Peter Wilson. Another race decided by 100th of a second. Here we are with Super Stock Eliminator, the final of Billman Performance Super Stock Eliminator. We have an A modified sedan.
And this will be some awesome run with Benny Gatt. Benny Gatt just burning out there with a big Ford. Supercharged 351 cubic inch place. Jerry Cooper, the Statesman, Jerry Cooper, 480 cubic inches of big block Chev in that advanced engineering car.
And look at this one. It's a big handicap start, something like 1.93 seconds. 1.93 seconds going to Jerry Cooper in the A-modified sedan Statesman. This car's only got one single 4-barrel carburetor on top of it. It's got a flat tappet camshaft, hasn't got a chassis in it. It's a modified sedan. Benny Gatt, full chassis, fuel injected, supercharged, awesome horsepower, but a big handicap to overcome. The head start going to the Queensland-based car of Jerry Cooper from Brisbane. Ben Gatt from Sydney. Final of Billman Performance Super Sedan, and look at that! Ben Gatt's the Nationals champion. Jerry Cooper rolled through the beams and brought on the red light. He crept the front wheels through the beam. The red light came on. Benny Gatt with an 8.48 at only 128 mile an hour. And there they are, the Gatt crew for Quaker State Oil. They're ecstatic. The Nationals champions in Super Stock Eliminator.
Jerry Cook would be crying in his soup over that.
Look at
one,
this.
wouldn't he?
Watch the car. It's just
inching
rolled
forward.
that fraction of an inch, and he's left the second amber on the tree. He left way, way early. The car just creeping on the line, and Jerry Cooper will be beside himself as Benny Gatt goes through to claim one of the biggest wins of his career.
So what do you...
And it's supercharged winners in Superstock.
What do you think Jerry Cooper just said?
Something like, I don't believe it. Look at the jubilation there with the Gatt team. Jim Reed with them. Here we go. Look at this. Top Fuel Motorcycles. This is heads up. Pro Start action. Nitro burning two-wheelers.
Stephen Kitchen on the turbocharged 1380 Kawasaki.
Over there in the near lane, we'll see backing back Peter Allen. There's Steve Kitchen. We see here's Peter Allen on the Hoskins and Allen bike. This awesome supercharged nitro burning 1000cc Kawasaki. We're in the final of Aussie Trackwear Pro Stock Motorcycle. Peter Allen, #1 qualifier, and he's got a start favourite. He's been running low sevens. Steve Kitchens has come from a lower qualifying position, but run very consistently to make it into the final.
Class record at 7.18.
That's awesome on two wheels.
Heads up start.
One amber and they're gone. Peter Allen push back again. Have a look at that huge rear tyre on the Warlord bike. Something like 12 inches wide, that slick on a motorcycle.
That'll be wide on a bus.
Peter Allen on the Kawasaki, this side a supercharged bike. Steve Kitchen on a turbocharged Kawasaki in the Agip Oils lane. This will be one flash of amber, and Peter Allen gets off the line. Steve Kitchen just wheel spins and almost gets off the bike, but look at Peter Allen. He's flying, runs a brilliant time. Here it is, 7:12. 188.28 mile an hour. That's under the national record, the quickest ever for the bike.
That would just about drag you away from the handlebars, wouldn't it?
Look at that, it's up on the wheelie bars. The front wheel's only touching the ground occasionally. Look at the speed of this bike. Steve Kitchens is only a mobile spectator. He's not in the race. Peter Allen at over 180 mile an hour. The video can't keep up.
188 miles an hour.
Pro Stock Motorcycle. Twinkle Taylor, we saw her in the semi-final have trouble, but she's back, she's there.
Yeah, there she is, Twinkle Taylor in the Kawasaki. On the Kawasaki, number 17. Do we know why they call her Twinkle? Twinkle Taylor, Twinkle Toes?
I actually couldn't tell you her name on the birth certificate. She's been known as Twinkle Taylor as long as I've known the people, and that's going back a lot of years.
She's certainly a little star around here.
She's in the final of Pro Stock Motorcycles. She's been a national record holder on motorcycles, and she knows how to handle two wheels. And her husband, Barry Taylor there, he runs Phase 4 motorcycles, imports MTC gear, and he is definitely a mover on two wheels. Morris Allen over there, his father just won Top Fuel Bike. Can this be a family double? Maury Allen on the Suzuki. This is the final of Pro Stock Motorcycle. Heads up, one flash of the amber material.
Yeah, 582 there, Maury Allen. 1200 cc's of Suzuki power.
And this is a motorcycle version of the Ford versus Chevy deal, because we've got the Suzuki for Maury Allen and Twinkle Taylor on the Kawasaki.
Yes, there's some sort of a problem for Twinkle there, isn't it?
No, they're just making sure they go through the pre-stage procedure. They want the tyre was cleaned, it was in the traction compound, a little chirpy up to the start line.
So obviously it couldn't have been too much of a major drama that we saw before for her.
Morris Allen, he's ready to stage. He's going to come in and bring on the pre-stage. Taylor still a fair way back from the line. Morris Allen and Twinkle Taylor, I'm not sure whether she's got a transmission problem. It jumped into gear there, we see. She's coming forward. We've got a live final in Pro Stock Bike.
She's not looking real confident. She's going backwards again.
Aussie Trackwear Pro Stock Motorcycle, this is. Been some great two-wheel action. Twinkle Taylor coming into stage. There will only be one flash of amber. Morris Allen now just edging the front wheel forward, brings on the stage light, one flash. Morris Allen gets out a couple of bike lengths on the start, and it will be an Allen double in motorcycles. There it is. Morris Allen takes the win and runs a good 885, 147.73. There it is. Watch the start line. They leave the same time, but the bike reacts better for Morris Allen, and he gets out by 2 bike lengths and was never headed. Twinkle Taylor back in the 9s with a 9.00 at a big 149.70. She had the speed, but didn't have the time.
Pro Stock Eliminator.
The cars fire up for the final of Pro Stock Eliminator, brought to us by Bumper to Bumper. There he is, the man that would have been down in the odds. Joe Polito, come from the clouds with a Ford Pro Stocker, the Ford Pro built in the US, and there he is, the man with a black taxi, Hans Van Dyke.
Hans Van Dyke in the Holden, the Buick-powered Holden, and that's the Ford Cleveland-powered Ford Probe of Joe Polito. We can see close to the camera there, sitting in the fulcrum suspension lane on the mound side of the track, and the Egypt tower side lane occupied by Hans Van Dyke.
There's the burnout for Joe Polito. Gets those tyres hot. They run a particular burnout procedure, the Ford team, and it works for them. Just a small one to get heat into the tyres, and then they look after them. Hans Van Dyke running for Eagle Performance and Travernus chassis. This is the last race you'll see from this car with Hans Van Dyke behind the wheel. The car has been sold. He's building an all-new Pro Stocker. He would love to go out with another Nationals win to add to the collection, but this is Ford versus Chevy stuff at its best. Joe Polito in the Probe, Hans Van Dyke with the GM product, Buick engine in the Holden.
And will we see another class record fall here? 8.18. The class record stands out at the moment, just waiting on Joe Polito to lock in, and he's done so, and they're away.
And Hans Van Dyke, red lights, no fairy tale for the black taxi. Joe Polito puts a Ford into the winner's circle in Pro Stock Eliminator for the first time in a long, long while.
8.45, 145.91 miles an hour.
But Hans Van Dyke wasted an 8.36. Watch here on the start line. We see the lights. There they are. Going too soon. There'll be a red light on the bottom of the tree for Hans Van Dyke. He tried to get the whole shot. He ran 2.6 reaction. That's a long way early. Had a good run going, an 8.36 at 160.20, but it's too late. Pacesetter Insurance Pro Comp Eliminator. We're coming down to the finals. That's Stephen Reed behind the wheel, behind the big engine. That's a Brad Anderson built Keith Black aluminium drag race engine.
That is one awesome motor car. That's the Trans Am Pontiac of Steve Reed.
They were number 2 qualifiers in Pacesetter Insurance Pro Comp, and here they are in the final. And who are they going to race?
They'll be racing John Noonan. John Noonan in the dragster.
The Pacesetter man himself, John Noonan, operator of Pacesetter Insurance Brokers, and he's running with assistance from Hague Engineering and Valvoline, whereas the Reeds, down comes the body. They're running for Egypt champion SDP and MS Auto Parts.
I don't think they've had a run in the Egypt lane all night.
No, they've preferred to stick with this right-hand lane of the Willowbank International Raceway, the lane sponsored by Fulcrum Suspensions. This is Pro Comp. Heads up, 1 amber. Dragster versus funny car. Alcohol burners. They're running methanol fuel. John Noonan in the Pacesetter 3 dragster. And big side-by-side burnouts.
Awesome will be the word for this, with a class record sitting at 6.34. You can expect a lightning fast run, and with both of these cars leaving together,
I can tell you the class record used to be in the 6.6s because it has been bombed already. They've moved a lot of records here at the 25th anniversary Nationals at Willowbank International Raceway. We're in the final of Pro Comp Eliminator. Bracket sponsored by Pace Setter Insurance, and we've got a Pace Setter car in it. Steve Reed getting guided back. He's behind the wheel of the Jim and Stephen Reed funny car.
And the Pace Setter Insurance car of John Noonan is the dragster.
This will determine who is the first winner of a Pro Comp Nationals title. First time the bracket's been run. Stephen Reed, been racing since he was 17 years of age. Soon as he got his licence to drive a street car, his dad put him in a supercharged T-bucket for qualifying passes.
John Noonan in that far lane, in the Egypt lane, the insurance broker, Pace Setter Insurance.
Stephen Reed in the funny car, John Noonan in the dragster. The wheelbase on that dragster, 300 inches. The car built by Bill Jones of Well Engineering here in Brisbane. They are both Brisbane-based drag racers in the final of Pro Comp Eliminator. There's John Noonan, a picture of concentration. Here comes Stephen Reed. Pro start, no handicap, 1 amber. Coming into stage is Stephen Reed. The rev's still building. One flash. John Noonan out with a good 4-5 light. Here comes Stephen Reed. Flashes. Noonan gets there. No. Here comes Reed, would you believe? 6:39 at 2:16, and that was so close. Watch this. The start line. The first move was for John Noonan. Here comes the funny car, big top end charge. We see sparks coming out as it's fouling the headers on the ground, I think. It's a big top end charge, and just gets there is Stephen Reed, and he has gone all the way in the braking area. We heard one of the cars has gone all the way down. We see the crash and rescue car heading into the braking area there. 6:39, 2:16 mile an hour on the digital readout boards for Reed there. A 6:47 at 205 for Noonan. We are not sure which car is into the deep end. They're both off.
Certainly gone a long way down.
The guys trying so hard, they've run all the way. Go with a big one. DP Auto Parts Top Fuel Eliminator, the most powerful engine outside of the United States of America. Romeo Capitanio in the Rocket Industries Top Fuel Dragster. Watch this car in the burnout. It is awesome. Look at the nitromethane flames out of the header pipes. Burning 10 gallons on 1/4 mile pass at $60 a gallon. Here's a Robin Kirby. It's an all Victorian final. Kirby from, I think, Bendigo. Runs for Federal Mogul Bearings and Keating's Transport.
Robin Kirby puts a heck of a lot into his drag racing, but he's going to find Romeo a very hard man to catch in this.
Oh, absolutely. This is a David and Goliath battle, but great to see Robin Kirby in the final. Hasn't missed a round of the Top Fuel Series in a couple of years. And Kirby's car sounding the strongest. We've heard it for quite some time. This is going to be a drag race, the final of DP Auto Parts Top Fuel at the 1991 edition of the Australian Drag Racing Nationals. Look at those nitro flames. These cars are at idle. On the start line, you've got something between 6,000 and 7,000 horsepower between these cars.
Yep.
It's like lining up a full grid of Formula One cars and then add a bit.
You need a full field to make up a race meeting, but these are the ones that you shouldn't go home without seeing. These are the ones that the people there rammed up against the fence are all waiting eagerly to see before the night's over. They come backwards now, back down to the start. Robin Kirby's car, the KB 510. And
look at the nitro flames out of those headers. I think we've just melted the lens on one camera.
oh, unbelievable.
Top Fuel Eliminator, that's Robin Kirby for Federal Mogul Bearings and Keating's Transport. Romeo Capitanio in the opposite lane, running for Rocket Industries and Cowan's Performance. Romeo Capitanio, top qualifier, fastest ever in Australia with a 5:31. What can he run in the final? This is it. We'll find out very, very quickly.
The class record at 5:52 could come down in flames.
And the flames will stand high out of the header pipes. Nitromethane. It carries its own oxygen. You can pour miles into the engine, separates into fuel and oxygen, and makes horsepower. 3,500 horsepower for Romeo Capitanio.
Taking 10 gallons of fuel to do a quarter of a mile in 5 seconds.
Kirby's into stage. Here comes Capitanio. This is the big final of... And Capitanio, Kirby, side by side. Capitanio on a march. Look at this, 5:26. 5.26, the fastest ever in Australia. 259.22 mile an hour. The chute has torn off the car. Romeo Capitanio has taken a chute off the car. 5.26. Watch this. Watch the start line. Kirby got out first. Look at the march by Romeo Capitanio all the way. Brings on the win light in the quickest run ever. Kirby with a good, valiant effort, but a 5.26 for Romeo Capitanio gets there ahead of a 6.79, shutting off to 166 mile an hour for Robin Kirby. There's Romeo Capitanio being towed safely back up the strip. Had a parachute explosion, but the fastest drag car in Australia, all in one piece, and Nationals champion in Top Fuel. And there we have people swarming over the stickiest piece of bitumen in Australia. The end of the 1991 Nationals. Romeo Capitanio taking out Top Fuel. Had a problem with his chute, but has pulled up safely very, very deep in the braking area. What a fantastic edition of the Australian Drag Racing Nationals, Jim.
And indeed a record-breaking run from Romeo Capitanio. I mean, that is just incredible. That terminal speed, mate, 259.22 miles an hour and 5.26 seconds. That really is not far off the American pace, let alone beating the Australian pace.
Absolutely. The car would be competitive anywhere. And there they go, the happiest group of spectators you ever imagine, leaving the Australian Nationals from Willowbank International Raceway. What a fantastic race meeting.